I'm Cerniglia, and I am the Director of Clinical and Experiential Education at Stetson. I'm here today to really tell you a personal experience of how I volunteered every Wednesday at a self-help desk at a civil trial courthouse. I really wanted to remove myself from the ivory tower and get out into the trench because I kept on hearing that people are waiting in lines at the courthouse, and the rumor's true. In a recent ABA study, there showed that there's 500 self-help desk centers around the country, and nearly 3.7 million people are served annually by a staff of less than 5 people, and many of those people aren't lawyers, they're volunteers. They're standing in line to essentially operate on themselves. And what I noticed is that from an IELTS study, cases without lawyers or clients without lawyers, there are 3 reasons or 4 reasons why they do this. They feel like they can't afford it, they think that they're good at it, or that they prefer self-representation, or they've had some type of experience that's problematic, or perception of attorneys. Of the 222 self-help centers that were surveyed, 57 of those centers turned away people. 81% of those centers decided that it was too complex to handle their case, and 47 indicated that the volume of the customers were too much for the center. There's no doubt that we have a trend going on, right? People are choosing self-representation, and it's an epidemic. And many of us think that it's because there are poor people that are going to these centers, but that's not actually true. What I want to do today is really slow down for a minute and kind of give you, instead of analyzing statistics, give you a face of what I've experienced just volunteering and how important I think it is for our students to be in there and understand and grapple with the emotional heaviness and powerful moments of the courthouse. So what I witnessed were many couples coming in and seeking divorces, right? Some of them were very amicable in this process. Some people had been married, one person in particular had been married for 10 years, been separated for 5. But they had heard about this self-help center, and they were excited about the opportunity to pursue a divorce in a really efficient way. I'll never forget the guy who was a consumer who was behind on payments to his car because he decided that he wanted to pay his mother's cancer treatments instead, and he had a petition against him, but he specifically wanted to handle how to handle this petition by himself, and we didn't have a form for him. There were also many grandparents, right? So the opioid crisis is real, and it's infecting our profession. The many grandparents that are doing interfamily adoptions are literally present at these self-help centers, carrying the burden of interfamily adoptions and trying to figure out custody disputes. Many times there were spouses just trying to survive. There was one particular client, or I shouldn't say client, somebody who was just coming to the center. She was in crisis, she was shaken. She had 3 young babies, and she didn't know what to do because her husband had just left her and had moved in with a mistress, and she wasn't sure how she was going to feed her children. I can't tell you how many battered spouses basically came, and at that one moment in time, they felt empowered, and they really didn't know where else to go, but they thought going to the courthouse would help them, much like going to a hospital. Listening to their stories and then equally trying to assist them through the process was something that we felt kind of good about. This one choked me up. The 4-tour Army veteran came in. He was despondent and somewhat just kind of despondent, and he just wanted to see his child just a little bit more. His child custody dispute was a little bit more complicated, and he wasn't the only one. There were more. There were tons of mothers, right, who would come in just having this protective instinct to protect their children, again, in child custody disputes. And they were essentially opting for that self-representation option because they didn't think they could afford an attorney. I share these stories with you really thinking about the humanity of it all, right? And how powerful those moments are, and how powerful I think our students should be exposed to those moments. And I want to create a pipeline at self-help desk so they can grapple with how our profession, I believe, is failing to serve clients who need the help, or potential clients. The double tragedy of it all were that many of these people would come in seeking help, and they had already sought assistance from attorneys and had paid thousands of dollars, and they didn't receive the end result. Or they had downloaded a form for $300 or $400 when we had provided a form that would help them for free. They didn't know. So Okay, that's really daunting and kind of depressing for us. So what I'm really here today is kind of to transition into an optimistic view and how we can plant the seeds for the future. And essentially what I would love to see is how we can start creating pathways to law schools, to self-help desk, and transform courthouses into teaching hospitals or teaching courthouses. How we can take our students and align them to see how to grapple with providing legal services in a way that now people trust us, because essentially that's what we need to do, right? Is to build a foundation using some of our resources that are already there, right? If we had professional responsibility courses that required hours, experiential hours, that were out volunteering at a self-help desk, and then we brought them back in, because they are the change agents of our future, to think about how to grapple with legal services in a different way, and it's part of a required curriculum. However, there are many barriers. Not all states allow this as an opportunity to provide self-help desk in courthouses, and not all states actually allow attorneys to serve in that function. So many of them are volunteers. Just in my resources, and there's one that I excluded here that it should be on here, which is the recent IELTS study that is Clients Without Counsel. It's an incredible study. I would encourage everybody to just dive deep and then figure out more ways to statistically analyze the data and provide more evaluations of how we can provide better services. That's it. Thanks.